Time, Uniworld Teas brings Sri Lanka's finest to the world. Every cup, rich in tradition. Each sip, a reminder of paradise. Through these proudly Sri Lankan brands, we've been able to bring in vital foreign revenue to the country at a time when Sri Lanka needs it the most. Every shipment, beam and brew, a step forward for the people and the economy. But what is a country without its soul, without its beauty? With Melva Hotels and Resorts, we shared an open invitation to the world to experience the warmth of Sri Lanka, the island we cherish, the heritage we preserve, the hospitality that defines us. This is more than just an invitation. It's a love letter to the island we call home. But a nation's real strength is in its people. We as a country have witnessed people struggle and lives at risk. So taking a step forward was essential, ensuring affordable medicine reached every home. Because a thriving Sri Lanka needs more than just strength, it needs a heartbeat. Honoring that love, we made a promise to the future. By converting our factories to run on solar power, we've taken a bold step towards sustainability, because a greener tomorrow begins today. At Melva, our success is not measured by numbers alone, but by the lives we touch and the futures we help shape. Through the Melva Foundation, initiatives like Suraksha reflect our deep commitment to protecting and uplifting those who need it most. Our children. We believe that children are more than our responsibility. They are the foundation of our country's future. The pediatric ward we built and maintain at Negombo General Hospital is a reflection of that vision. It is a sanctuary of healing where young lives find the strength to fight and families find comfort in their most difficult moments. Education and sports are pillars close to our hearts. We believe every child deserves the right to dream and the tools to chase that dream. From revitalizing long-forgotten school libraries to awarding grants that help students reach universities they once thought out of reach, we strive to open doors to brighter futures. We also invest in developing sporting teams, knowing that the discipline, teamwork and confidence built through sports can shape leaders of it. What next? Melva Cement, this land, our land, has given us everything. And in return, we build, we heal, we create. Not for today, not just for us, but for the generations to come. We are Melva, an unbelievable combination of businesses. Melva, building progress. A great journey begins with a single step. Every legacy with a single vision. The steel chapter. It all began with steel, the foundation of progress, backbone of every great nation. With every beam, rod and structure, they are the silent architects of a rising Sri Lanka. From vision to reality, we have redefined Sri Lanka's steel story. Look around. Colombo's skyline rises boldly by pushing boundaries and forging beyond limits. We at Melva pushed Sri Lanka to be stronger and more resilient. We have made history by entering the Canadian construction industry with a landmark shipment of 15,000 metric tons of reinforcement steel, compliant to Canadian standards. This historic export marks a major step forward, not only for our company, but for the entire nation, as we expand Sri Lanka's global footprint, showcasing our capabilities to the world. And what is strength without progress? We didn't stop at steel and brass. We evolved with Meljib. Not only walls were built, it created foundations for the future. Homes where children will dream. Spaces where ideas will grow. After a journey with steel, there's nothing more satisfying than a perfect cup of tea. Because with UniWorld Teas, anytime is tea time. UniWorld Teas brings Sri Lanka's finest to the world. Every cup, rich in tradition. Each sip, a reminder of paradise. Through these proudly Sri Lankan brands, we've been able to bring in vital foreign revenue to the country at a time when Sri Lanka needs it the most. Every shipment, beam and brew, a step forward for the people and the economy. But what is a country without its soul, without its beauty? With Melva Hotels and Resorts, we shared an open invitation to the world to experience the warmth of Sri Lanka, the island we cherish, the heritage we preserve, the hospitality that defines us. This is more than just an invitation. It's a love letter to the island we call home. But a nation's real strength is in its people. We as a country have witnessed people struggle and lives at risk. So taking a step forward was essential, ensuring affordable medicine reached every home. Because a thriving Sri Lanka needs more than just strength, it needs a heartbeat. Honoring that love, we made a promise to the future. By converting our factories to run on solar power, we've taken a bold step towards sustainability. Because a greener tomorrow begins today. At Melva, our success is not measured by numbers alone, but by the lives we touch and the futures we help shape. Through the Melva Foundation, initiatives like Suraksha reflect our deep commitment to protecting and uplifting those who need it most. Our children. We believe that children are more than our responsibility. They are the foundation of our country's future. The pediatric ward we built and maintain at Negombo General Hospital is a reflection of that vision. It is a sanctuary of healing where young lives find the strength to fight and families find comfort in their most difficult moments. Education and sports are pillars close to our hearts. We believe every child deserves the right to dream and the tools to chase that dream. From revitalizing long-forgotten school libraries to awarding grants that help students reach universities they once thought out of reach, we strive to open doors to brighter futures. We also invest in developing sporting teams, knowing that the discipline, teamwork, and confidence built through sports can shape leaders of it. What next? Melva Cement. This land, our land, has given us everything. And in return, we build, we heal, we create. Not for today, not just for us, but for the generations to come. We are Melva, an unbelievable combination of businesses. Melva, building progress. A great journey begins with a single step. Every legacy with a single vision. The steel chapter. It all began with steel, the foundation of progress, backbone of every great nation.
मैडम का नाम बताया मैं सादे के कर लेते मैं 4 minutes थी मेरी को होना सफाई वगैरह इस बात में पता नहीं देने तो एक बार दाग कौन से क्या ओ थी इस बात को देखना बेबी तो Tawinan ito ni Teka. उनका तुम्हें तीन नहीं
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Distinguished guests, members of the engineering fraternity, President and the council members of IESL Sri Lanka, and friends. It is indeed a privilege and a pleasure to welcome you this evening to the book launching ceremony of a publication that reflects not only engineering excellence, but also our nation's hydraulic heritage, Sri Lanka's modern reservoirs. This event is organized by the Library Publications, Publicity and Conference Committee of Institution of Engineers Sri Lanka as part of its continuing commitment to knowledge sharing and professional development. May I begin by introducing myself. I am Frankie Parra, and it is my honor to serve as the Master of Ceremony today for this important and intellectually enriching occasion. Sri Lanka is a civilization shaped by water. Our reservoirs are not merely structures of earth and stone. They are symbols of foresight, sustainability, and collective wisdom. This book captures that legacy through the lens of modern engineering. I just went through the website regarding the launching of book ceremonies. I found this. A book is not a just read, it is experienced. Book preserves the past, explain the present, and guide the future. Engineering is applied science, but books are its memory. When experience is documented, it becomes a gift to generations. This publication is a result of our 2 years of dedicated effort, reflection, research, and professional commitment by Engineer Badra Kamaldas, a veteran irrigation engineer of having more than 36 years of irrigation department as an irrigation engineer, and even the post 10 years of experience as a consultant and working on irrigations, books, and authoring many publications, whose career itself reflects the story of Sri Lanka's water infrastructure. Writing such a book is not merely an academic exercise. It is a responsibility, and it demands accuracy and historical sensitivity and engineering integrity. This book stands as evidence of her commitment. Ladies and gentlemen, with this context in mind, let us now proceed with the formal agenda of the evening. I now have the honor of inviting Engineer M.G. Hemchandra, Chairman of the Library Publications, Publicity and Conference Committee of Institute for Engineers Sri Lanka, and presently serving as the Chairman of Urban Development Authority Sri Lanka, to deliver the welcome address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Engineer Frankie. Good evening to you all. President of IESL, Engineer Kosala Kamburadeniya, President-elect, Vice President and Council members, past President of IESL, CEO IESL, Engineer Neela Abesekara, Engineer Badra Kamaladasa, author of the monograph today, guest speakers, Dr. Hilmi Sally and Engineer SMLDK Alvis, former Secretary of Transport, reviewers of the book, Engineer Janaki Migastan and Engineer Professor Mr. Hettiarachi. Members of the ISL, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It is my great pleasure and honor on behalf of Library Publication, Publicity and Conference Committee of the Institution of Engineers Sri Lanka to warmly welcome you all to this important book launch. So my committee is very long name, so I will say hereinafter I say Library Committee. First and foremost, I respectfully welcome the President of the Institution of Engineers Sri Lanka, Engineer Kosala Kamburadeniya. Your presence in this evening is great encouragement to all the participants today. I also extend a warm welcome to members of IESL Council and our esteemed past presidents, whose leadership and vision have continuously guided the institution to uphold professional excellence. Special word of welcome goes to author of this publication. This book, which was initiated last year actually under leadership of Engineer Kamala Gunawardana as a chairperson of Library and Publication Committee, is a result of dedicated effort, technical insight and strong commitment to documenting and sharing engineering knowledge. I warmly welcome our distinguished guest speaker who will share their insights with us in this evening, adding their further value to this event. I would also like to sincerely acknowledge and welcome the reviewers of this book. Your time, expertise, and constructive feedback play a vital role in ensuring technical accuracy, relevance, and quality of IESL publication. I extend my appreciation and warm welcome to members of the IESL staff whose work behind the scenes shall not go unnoticed. So I take this opportunity to thank CEO and IESL staff members. Ladies and gentlemen, the publication such as this reflect IESL commitment not only to professional practice but also to knowledge creation, documentation, and dissemination. As a library committee, we are proud to support and promote such initiatives that strengthen the engineering profession in Sri Lanka. This book is an important and timely contribution to the field of hydrology and water resource engineering in Sri Lanka by systematically documenting planning, design, and development of modern reservoirs. It provides engineers with valuable technical insight as well as historical perspectives, bridging theory of real-world practice. So such a publication is especially significant for practicing engineers, young professionals, and students who seek context-specific knowledge grounded in Sri Lanka's own hydrological and climate conditions. The author, Engineer Badra Kamaladasa, is a senior engineer, former Director General of Irrigation Department, with extensive professional experience in the water resource and irrigation sector, and is well known for her long-standing involvement in the reservoir planning development in the country. Her practical expertise combined with a strong commitment to knowledge sharing is clearly reflected in the depth, clarity, and relevance of this work. making it lasting reference for the engineering community. Once again, I warmly welcome you all and wish this book every success. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Engineer Hemchandra, for setting the tone for this evening and clearly highlighting the objectives of this important event. Now, on to the very important speech that is by our present chairman of IISL, Engineer Kosala Kambrodenia. Let me introduce him to this August. President, Institution of Engineers, Sri Lanka. MD, Principal Consultant at K2 Consultants Private Limited. BSc Engineering Honours, MBA. Attorney at Law, Postgraduate Diploma in Engineering. Diploma in Commercial Arbitration. Chartered Engineer. Fellow Institute of Engineers, Sri Lanka. International Professional Engineer. Chartered Professional Engineer, Australia. Fellow Institute of Engineering, Australia. CM Engineering, New Zealand. So Kosala Kambrodenia currently holds the position of Managing Director, Principal Consultant at K2 Consultants Private Limited, a company that provides a variety of expert services in project management and building services. He also serves as a council member of the Engineering Council of Sri Lanka, which regulates the practice of engineering in the country. He is a chartered engineer and international professional engineer and a fellow of the Institution of Engineers Sri Lanka. Additionally, a fellow and a chartered professional engineer of Engineering Australia. And he has 30 years of extensive experience in building services engineering, project management, maintenance management, and power generation. He has designed and delivered innovative MEP solutions across various market sectors, including industrial, commercial, hospitality, healthcare, and residential, as well as several high-rise buildings. Please welcome Engineer Kosala Kambrodenia at this very important event. Over to you, sir.
Thank you for the introduction. Immediate past president, vice presidents, council members, past presidents, Engineer Bhadra Kamaladasa, the author of the monograph, guest speakers today, Dr. Hilmi Sally and Engineer SMD LKD Alvis, reviewers of the monograph, Engineer Janaki Nigastanna and Engineer Professor Missaka Hettiarachchi, members of the Library Publication, Publicity and Conference Committee and Water Forum, members of IESL, CEO and the staff of IESL, ladies and gentlemen, very good evening to you. It gives me a great pleasure to be with you in this evening at the launch of this important publication, Sri Lanka's Modern Reservoirs, authored by Engineer Bhadra Kamaladasa and published by Institute of Engineers Sri Lanka. On behalf of IESL, I congratulate the Library, Publication, Publicity and Conference Committee, the author, the reviewers, and all who contributed to bringing this work to completion on this occasion. Creating, preserving, and disseminating engineering knowledge relevant to our country is a key task of IESL in advancing the engineering profession. This is why the Institution of Engineers places special emphasis on publishing monographs. These are not merely books, they are carefully curated records of professional practice, experience, and national engineering achievements. Through monographs, we ensure that knowledge gained through decades of work is documented, shared, and passed on future generations of engineers rather than being lost with time. These publications are important to the entire country. Why? The choices engineers make affect our economy, our environment, and the lives of our people every day. Engineers can make better decisions about how to develop solutions that are technically sound, socially responsible, and environmentally friendly when they have access to knowledge anchored in the local context. That is why these publications are important. Sri Lanka has been shaped and sustained for centuries by its irrigation heritage. From the ancient village tanks to the contemporary multi-purpose reservoirs, water management has continuously been central to our civilization, flood security, and rural lives. The monograph launched today brings together the structured and reader-friendly compilation of information on selected reservoirs constructed from the colonial era onwards, highlighting not only technical achievements, but also challenges and socio-economic benefits. The objective of this monograph is twofold. First, it is a clear and reliable guide for engineers, planners, and students seeking to understand the scope and complexity of modern reservoirs projects in Sri Lanka. Second, it recognizes the collective effort of government institutions, professionals, contractors, and local communities whose dedication has made this project possible. This publication is the outcome of an extensive data collection and compilation effort carried out over a period of 2 years. During this process, it became evident that the number of new reservoirs added to the national water infrastructure substantially, with several more under construction or in various stages in planning and design. To do justice to this scale of development, the work has been structured into 2 volumes. Volume 1 comprises 2 main sections. The first provides an overview of the historical evolution of reservoir development in Sri Lanka, together with the methodologies adapted in planning, investigation, design, and construction since the colonial era. The second section presents project-specific information on selected major schemes completed in recent decades, addressing the technical, social, and environmental dimensions. In Volume 2, in this documentation will be continued to ensure comprehensive coverage of all recent development by the author. The structure adapted in this book allows the readers to appreciate both uniqueness of each project and the broader themes that connect them. The continuing need to augment water resources for agriculture, the challenges of balancing development with the environmental stewardship, and growing importance of providing safe drinking water to both urban population and rural communities. When it comes to the author, I don't think that I need to specially introduce her. She's a well-known professional in the country with more than 3 decades of experience. She's a very active senior member of the Institution of Engineers. And this is not her first publication. She was the author of the central publication of ISL titled Irrigation Development of Sri Lanka. Engineer Bhadra Kamaldas graduated from University of Moratuwa in 1978, and she earned her master's in development technology from University of Melbourne in 1994. She retired from the government service as a Director General of Irrigation in 2015 after continuous service of 36 years in the irrigation department. She has immense experience in planning, designing, construction, operation, rehabilitation, and managing water resources projects and specializes in dam safety. After her retirement, she served as an advisor to the Ministry of Irrigation for 5 years, and she led the preparation of draft water policy, the Flood Management Act, the Dam Safety Regulations Mechanism, and the formulation of amendments to the Irrigation Ordinance. At present, she works as the freelance consultant, specializing in governance, legal aspects, dam safety, environmental impact assessment, climate change adaptation, and gender issues in water resource development and management. She has authored over 35 technical papers related to water resource development and management. Engineer Kamaladasa has represented Sri Lanka in numerous international forums, sharing the country's experience in areas such as ancient irrigation technology, water resource planning, design, operation, management, and gender aspects in irrigation sector. She actively participated in many other international and national professional organizations as technical paper reviewer and advisor. She is nominated as the Sri Lankan representative of 4 technical committees of International Commission of Large Dams. She is a member of 2 ICOL technical committees. Her passion lies in raising awareness of Sri Lankan irrigation heritage and modern irrigation technology among professionals and general public, while also contributing to policy dialogue and knowledge dissemination on contemporary water sector challenges. Thank you very much, Engineer Bhadra Kamaladasa, for your dedication and support to the profession, the institution, and to the country. Looking ahead, the ISL is committed to strengthening its publication programs further. We plan to encourage more participating engineers to document their experience, expand digital access to monographs, and develop thematic publications aligned with national priorities such as climate resilience, water security, energy transition, and sustainable infrastructure. In doing so, we aim to reinforce the role of engineers not only as designers and builders, but also as custodian of knowledge and contributors to the national policy and development discourse. It's my sincere hope that this book will help preserve institutional memory, promote appreciation of Sri Lanka's rich engineering heritage, and inspire future generations of engineers to build upon this strong foundation of knowledge and practice. I congratulate the author and everyone involved once again, and I wish this publication the widest possible readership and impact. Thank you. Have a pleasant evening.
Thank you, sir, for your inspiring address and for emphasizing the rate of publications in strengthening our engineering profession. Not only that, you made my job easy for introducing and all credentials of Madam Kamaladasa. So we will be moving on to the next item in the agenda. The first guest speech by Engineer Dr. Hilmi Sali. Let me introduce himself to the audience. His theme today is managing our reservoir infrastructure. How are we faring? Dr. Hilmi Sali's hours spans 40 years of international professional experience in agriculture, water, and natural resources management. He has held leadership and representational positions in research, capacity strengthening, project and program management, and consulting in 30 countries in Africa, Asia, and Europe, including 25 years of resident experience outside his native Sri Lanka. In 2012, following his retirement from the full-time employment with the International Water Management Institute, where he was a long-serving staff member. Hilmi has undertaken consulting assignments on behalf of various international clients, including multicultural funding agencies, bilateral multicultural funding agencies, and research and development organizations. Dr. Hilmi Salih is fluent in English and French and has a broad interdisciplinary publication records in both languages. He is the chairman of the board of directors of Infotex Ideas, a multidisciplinary development consultancy company based in Colombo, and he also chairs a non-profit organization called IGEAS Ideas, Initiatives in Development and in Entrepreneur Approaches and Strategies. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Hilmi Salih for his speech on managing our reservoir infrastructure. How are we fair? Over to sir.
Oops. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me look for my presentation. Ms. Rochelle. So anyway, while waiting for the presentation to load, thank you very much to IESL and Engineer Badra for having invited me to say a few words on this important occasion, as was highlighted by the President, the Chairman of the Library Committee, and the moderator. This is indeed an important and momentous occasion, and I count myself privileged to have been asked to say a few words on this occasion. So I'll structure my talk in broadly in kind of maybe three parts. Firstly, I'll rapidly do an overview of the publication itself. I will not be long, just touching on a few topics that hopefully will give me an entry point into the subject that I've been allocated, that is talking about the management of our reservoir infrastructure. There we go. So secondly, I'll, as you will see, we spoke about the modern reservoir infrastructure. I think President and others referred to that. So with the evolution of modern infrastructure, multipurpose, etc., there are certain challenges that accrue. So basically, my talk will be oriented towards seeing how our management can be adopted and adapted to face these new challenges. Okay. So I think to start off, it's worth recalling our country's hydraulic heritage. Previous speakers referred to that. And our hydraulic heritage, as I think the moderator said, there was this whole network of reservoirs, of canals, of interconnected diversion structures, etc., were not only just mere structures, but as Engineer Frankie said, they were really a part of life and livelihoods in that era. And notably, our village tank cascade system has been globally recognized as an important agricultural heritage system, similar to the World Heritage System recognition of sites by UNESCO. So that just is an absolute important testament to the ingenuity, the foresight, and the creativeness of the rulers and engineers that I've gone by. So what is this book about? It is indeed a continuum. It not only recognizes, but carries forward that ancient hydraulic legacy. by documenting the modern phase of post-colonial dam construction. The book, as you can see, all the post-colonial reservoir developments are systematically and comprehensively documented, and information on selected reservoirs has been compiled in a very structured and reader-friendly manner. So I would also draw your attention to the cover page of the book, which indeed illustrates the diversity in type, in size, and geographic location of our hydraulic infrastructure, dams, and reservoirs. The book has an inventory of 85 new dams and reservoirs that are listed over here and also geographically located in this map. The book that is being launched today is volume 1 of a 2-part series, as was referred to earlier. It gives us details of almost half of this inventory of 85 reservoirs. It is made up of 2 sections. Some of you have the book in front of you. You will see that the first 20 sections is basically a narrative, a recall of the challenges and the contributions made by these structures that have been built since the colonial era. And the meat of the book is over 150 pages. It provides very detailed project-specific information, highlighting the different technical, social, environmental aspects of these 39 reservoirs. And we expect that volume 2 would give the identical information in respect of the remaining reservoirs. So this work, as was referred to, is the result of 2 years of meticulous research and extensive data collection. And the author, Engineer Bhadra Kamaladasa, must indeed be commended for producing this valuable compendium in such an easily accessible format, drawing on in-depth professional knowledge and extensive professional experience. So thank you, Engineer Bhadra, because your work will constitute, going forward, a valuable, invaluable reference and a resource for professionals and the public interested in the subject of our country's water resources. Let me now share with you a few quotes from this book, which shows as it is mentioned, the strategic shift of reservoirs. What I've highlighted here is to say the newer reservoirs, some of them located in the wet and intermediate zones, they give rise to new challenges. Runoff is higher, flood control becomes an issue. Reservoirs are also called upon to act as buffers against climate change. And the important point highlighted by the book is that infrastructures alone are not adequate. They have to be properly managed. So this evolving scenario in terms of our hydraulic structures brings also new layers of responsibility to engineers, policymakers, and other professionals who have been entrusted with the stewardship of these important resources. So in other words, infrastructure is essential, yes, but may not be sufficient if they are not accompanied by effective non-structural measures such as management, maintenance, and indeed optimal reservoir operations, which will not only ensure that water is used efficiently and productively, but would also minimize the need for additional investment and additional infrastructure. So if we talk about, in the past, reservoirs were mostly independent, single purpose, supporting mostly primarily agriculture, and they were relatively simple to operate. Nowadays, reservoirs tend to be multi-purpose and based in cascades with obvious upstream and downstream interdependencies. They have to act as buffers against extremes, climate-induced extremes, be they extended droughts or floods. Management and decision-making, therefore, is more complex. One positive aspect is the river basin has indeed emerged as the logical planning unit for water resources development. And the question we should ask ourselves, has operational management of reservoirs followed suit? So we'll try to unpack that in the rest of the talk. So far, the book and this little experience clearly illustrates that we need to shift away from a business as usual approach to reservoir management. Successful multi-purpose cascade-based reservoir operation does require the assistance of decision support tools such as mathematical models. In terms of allocation, properly planning and allocating water resources, in terms of using hydrological models and computer databases to predict flows and optimize reservoir operations, and an overarching supportive institutional environment that emphasizes interagency collaboration with clear demarcation of roles and responsibility. All these are critical aspects for proper reservoir management. The rest of my talk, I'll focus on this aspect of decision support tools, how we could harness the power of these decision support tools to manage our reservoir infrastructure. So first, let us scan the landscape that exists in terms of our current institutional and technical environment to see what challenges exist and what is conducive to the adoption of decision support systems, DSS, for reservoir operations in the country. The institutional landscape first. We know that there are multiple agencies responsible for reservoir operations, IDE, MASL, DMCEV, and increasingly DMC, and of course the Met Department. So this distribution or diversity of responsibilities sometimes does create conflicts in terms of priorities for reservoir releases. The legal authority to enforce release decisions perhaps needs some clarity. And in the absence of these factors, operators would tend to use their rule of thumb, experience-based decisions, which may be okay for under normal circumstances, but perhaps may be inadequate in times of emergency and in extreme situations. Limitations related to data. We know that real-time data is sparse. There's limited telemetry, limited collection and transmission of real-time data. Data is collected by various institutions. So although data should be considered as a public good and not a private property, nevertheless, data tends to be stored in what I would call silos, data silos. There doesn't seem to be a common data platform, shared databases that would be accessible to all the stakeholders. So with the result, there is limited data sharing between these organizations. I know the Irrigation Department has this real-time river flow platform, which is extremely useful. That is perhaps a good starting point. Again, the operational consequence in terms of reservoirs is that given the data uncertainty, it leads to uncertainty of forecasts and suboptimal decision-making. So let us unpack this uncertainty of forecast, which leads to, as I said, delayed decisions. Some of it is easily explainable because the hydromet location situation of Sri Lanka subject to convective rainfall, which makes forecasts challenging. Again, data in the absence of forecast uncertainty, there is decreased confidence in whatever forecasts are made, not only in rainfall, but also in terms of stream flow. Again, release decisions are delayed until flows are already occurring and until we actually observe water flowing into our reservoirs. Operators also tend to be reluctant to make risk-informed decisions, that is to say, there is a 20% chance of spill, what decision shall we take now? They seem to be waiting to act in a kind of, let's say, deterministic mode till such time as we actually see water flowing. With the result, flood mitigation opportunity is lost. That most of our dams are not, our reservoirs are not geared or have not been designed for flood control explicitly. Is that right? There are also technical and capacity constraints. There are irrigation schemes, there are systems or where models, decision support tools do exist, but they have not been institutionally embedded. It's quite often they have been introduced as part of a project, as a project deliverable, so that's done, very good. But post-project, maybe maintenance budgets might not be available to sustain these. Software licenses may expire, servers may not be upgraded. So if under those circumstances, these tools might fall into disuse and post a project. The tools, on the other hand, may be technically sound, but might be too complex for routine use. May be good as academic and research objectives, but for routine operational use, it may not be the most appropriate because they might lack simplified dashboards, actionable decisions, and which would require continued dependence on external resource people. Staff training, staff turnover and training gaps. We are all aware of the challenges of retaining staff. Trained officers get transferred and incoming staff may not be familiar with the models and tools that are available in-house because there's a lack of institutional memory and carryover of that institutional memory. An often overlooked factor, I would say, is this issue of legal and accountability. There is a risk aversion mindset among reservoir operators, as we saw during the events in November. They may be reluctant to make certain decisions because they fear that they would be held personally liable. I would be blamed if there's something goes wrong. They are subject to media scrutiny, post-event inquiries. So there's really no legal protection for operators, even if they act as per agreed standard operating procedures and the outputs of an agreed decision support system. So again, in that context, even if there is a modeling tool, a decision support system, they may not be used as a true decision driver. Again, we go back to very conservative reservoir operations, late releases, risk of increased downstream floods. So this quick sort of overview, I tried to summarize over here in this slide. So Sri Lanka's reservoir management challenges, I would say, are not only technical, but they're also related to governance, accountability, and trust. Systematic institutional use of models and decision support tools and their operational integration is lacking. If such tools are used in an isolated way, in an informal or ad hoc fashion, they won't be properly documented and they will suffer from a lack of legal backing in case of adverse outcomes. In the absence of reliable input, especially during extreme events, the outputs would also, however sophisticated the models and tools might be, if they're based on weak inputs, the outputs would tend to remain academic and underused. But I think all is not doom and gloom. So though there are challenges, but nothing is insurmountable. So here I'd like to share a few thoughts on a possible template. If you want to move in that direction, here's some thoughts I'd like to share with you on how we could introduce and adopt such tools into our reservoir operations. The purpose and scope, just quickly outlined here, so enable timely, defensible, and coordinated forecast-based reservoir operations using decision support tools to meet various objectives while minimizing the possibility of downstream floods. Could be applied to major and medium reservoirs. It could certainly to multi-purpose reservoirs with the risk of floods, and could also be operated or used in both monsoon and intermonsoon periods. The key institutional actors are indeed the same, but their roles and responsibilities must be clearly demarcated in the context of the introduction of a DSS type of system. A DSS would normally have, let's say, typically three modes: a normal operating mode where everything is fine, no significant rainfall events are forecast, so you carry on business as usual. Normal operation, meeting the usual demands, downstream demands for power, irrigation, water supply, etc. But if the forecast rainfall is likely to raise reservoir storage over a certain threshold, let's say 70, 80, 90%, whatever could be agreed upon, then we move into what is called an alert mode, where we have to prepare for a pre-release of the stored water. So the next step would be what is called a flood mode. If our models indicate that, let's say, a 60 or high probability of spill within the next 2 or 3 days, we have to move into this flood mode. And here I'm suggesting that there we activate what I've just called an Interagency Reservoir Coordination Unit, IRCU, not IRC, IRCU. So this IRC, what is it? So it will function as a joint operational cell during extreme events. Activation would be mandatory upon entry into flood mode. Composition would be representative of the key institutions plus local agencies, maybe the armed forces. And their functions would be to review the outputs of this decision support system. Given the uncertainties in forecasting, they have to be considered explicitly. Release strategies have to be agreed collectively, and decisions made also in a collective fashion. And importantly, decisions taken by the IRCU are considered to be institutionally shared. So nobody can say, Mama danne naha, Mama hitiye naha, etc. So in terms of release strategy, we talked of pre-releases to be undertaken before a reservoir reaches spill level. Why are we doing that? To aim for early, moderate releases instead of later emergency spills. We take a probabilistic approach, a perspective, that is the risk of spill. What is the risk of spill if no pre-release action is taken? So if you're willing to incur the possible consequences of that, a decision is taken, that's fine, but we take ownership for that. Obviously, we have to avoid sudden step changes in discharge. Releases must consider downstream channel capacities, and that is why we'll see we need proper modeling software that can model these flood routing in the downstream channels. And DSS decisions would normally be a band rather than a single value. For example, we would increase releases gradually over from X cubic meters per second to Y over a certain number of hours. And over here, once again, to emphasize, we accept there is a forecast uncertainty and we manage the risk very transparently. Then we come to an important factor, which is dissemination and communication, which I dare say didn't function very well in November. And this would be the responsibility of the Disaster Management Center, DMC, So they would have to issue advisories well before releases exceed predefined thresholds to the relevant institution and to the population at large. But of course, they would have to be advised by decisions taken by this other body called the IRC, of which they are an integral part. The early warning systems would also require things like inundation maps, a proper census, and contact details of people living in vulnerable areas, floodplains. No, they should not be there, but reality is that they are there. So let us see how we can inform and alert them as early as possible. Dissemination of information should be done in, if not all three languages, at least in Sinhala and Tamil. I think not more than 20 or 30% of the warnings in November went out in Tamil. So that is something that needs to be corrected. SMS text messages, TV news flashes, radio, and even door-to-door announcements by community groups. And then I think this is, I'm not sure this is really something that the last point. Evacuation planning, I really don't know to what extent it's actually planned in terms of community drills beforehand, rehearsals, etc., so that in the event of an emergency, that people know exactly what to do, where to do, and when to do things. We come back to the business of tools and data requirements. Given the challenges and the benefits that could accrue, it's probably time to invest in a national network of real-time hydromet network with a shared authoritative real-time data platform accessible to all agencies. This multiple agency operating cell takes collective decisions so that there is no individual blame attributed to a single institution or a single person. To drive all this, obviously, we need mathematical tools. I've just indicated a possible set of models over here. Rainfall runoff modeling would be one module, another module to model flood routing and river flow within the river channels, and a module for reservoir operations. I'm not a salesman for the US Army Corps of Engineers, the HEC suite of models, but this is an example of what might be useful if we want to move in this direction. Coming back to documentation and legal protection, for every alert, the following information should be carefully recorded. Forecasts used with the date time source, the outputs that have been reviewed and analyzed and reviewed, the decisions taken and the reasons thereof, and the names of the people involved. So if those decisions are taken in accordance with the agreed standard operating procedures, with the model outputs, there's absolutely no problem there. And they should be afforded that protection, but what in maritime parlance is called a safe harbor clause. If an event occurs, necessarily there has to be a post-event review, say within 30-40 days, where forecasts will be compared with the actual observed events. The efficacy of the early warning and evacuation measures will have to be reviewed. Information is shared with all relative stakeholders. And the standing operating procedure would necessarily have to be reviewed after every flood event. There's a learning involved, and so if modification has to be done, let us do it. If nothing happens, perhaps every 2-3 years, they could be reviewed, taking into account whatever new information that has been made available. Similarly, the alert thresholds could also be improved as and when the data quality also improves. So another point I'd like to refer, I think the President referred to ICOL, and yes, thankfully, I think we can be proud that none of our physical infrastructure suffered damage during reservoirs or dams suffered damage during November. But this does not mean that we should be complacent. We should carry out regular dam safety inspections in accordance with the ICOL guidelines. So DSS, yes, no, maybe, I leave it to you to decide. My job was just to throw some ideas, hopefully food for thought. But a few obviously evident points. So if in the absence of such a decision support system, every extreme event would look unprecedented. We would be responding in an emergency, in a crisis fashion. Responsibilities and indeed accountability will be unclear and diffused, and the opportunities for learning and self-improvement will be limited. But in the presence of an institutionally accepted and agreed decision support system, the decisions as well as the trade-off, the uncertainties are explicit, they are traceable. There is longer lead time for warnings and actions that have been taken for emergency responses. And everything, there is a self-alerts, extreme events also provide an opportunity for improving self-learning. So to sum up, I think setting up, if you want to move in that direction, setting up such a system does not require new laws or agencies. It fits with the existing reservoir and disaster management structures. It helps us to take timely decisions and actions that minimize damage. Forecast, uncertainty, and risks are explicitly recognized, are managed transparently. We're going to say, yes, there's a certain element of risk in the decisions we take, but we own it. Model-based advice doesn't remain academic, but they are translated into actionable procedures. And legal and professional protection is provided for reservoir operators. My last closing thought is, if a decision support system existed, would it have helped in a Ditwa-like situation? Yeah, it could have helped us move perhaps from reactive responses to more proactive actions. There could have been a more robust early warning dissemination, alerts, multilingual asserts, community drills. So going forward, we can aspire that future extreme events would hopefully cause less loss of property and life. However, long-term planning weaknesses in land use enforcement must be addressed. Unregulated hillside development, I mentioned that, doesn't exactly fall under our purview, but nevertheless, it is worth mentioning. For us, settlement in and around floodplains, which sadly worsened the impact of the cyclone. Rebuilding and reconstruction efforts should make efforts to climate-proof the infrastructure and systems we put in place. And we should also recognize that the DSS will not eliminate floods, but it could reduce the harm that an extreme event would cause. It could help us to make earlier, deliberate, calm, and defensible decisions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sade, for that insightful and thoughtful, provoking presentation. Your perspectives on infrastructure management have added immense value to our understanding, and thoughts of the Ditwa and the future events is challenging, and thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the second guest speaker. That is how water heritage shapes modern water politics by Engineer SML Digidi Alvis. Let me introduce him. I think most of you know him very well, but I do my introduction. Engineer Laliti Alvis is a chartered civil engineer specialized in the field of irrigation, water resources management, and environmental engineering. He served 29 years for the irrigation department, holding different scale of engineering positions, and finally served as a director of irrigation. Engineer Laliti Alvis started another step at the Ministry of Irrigation and we have water resources management as director of water resources management, and his duties as additional secretary water resources management for about 5 years. Later, he assumed the duties as a secretary to the State Ministry of Transport and ended up with this government service holding the post as chairman to the Sri Lanka Transport Board. When he was in the irrigation sector, he closely works with ICID, InBank activities, which are international platforms to share knowledge and experience to deliver the country needs services. Further, he was representative to the United Nations Center for Regional Development about 3 years to contribute pollution-free water on behalf of the Ministry of Irrigation. Additionally, he is the visiting lecturer of the Madinjit Singh Center for South Asia Water Management in the University of Moratuwa, an exceptional service rendered for the water sector policy formulation for several times, though it has yet realized. At present, he serves the Asian Development Bank as a consultant having recognized as National Irrigation Specialist. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome Engineer Laliti Alvis for his speech on how water heritage shapes modern water.
Right. Thank you, my dear friend. Thank you for the long introduction. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. President ISL, the immediate past president, vice presidents, council members, senior fellows, the former secretaries, and all the participants. Dear Madam Badra, finally my wife. This is the first time she came with me to this auditorium. Though we have attended several activities in the ISL, this is the first time she came because we wanted to grace Madam Badra's this event. So I have given a topic. The how water heritage shapes modern water politics in Sri Lanka. Thank you, Dr. Hegmi. You laid the net. Now I have a chance to spread my yields on your mat. So, because this is very interesting, the subject, being the member of the consultants, today we are attending the working with the engineer Luxury to formulate, to revise water policy in Sri Lanka again, the fourth time, the fourth attempt for formulating the water policies to the country. So when the Madam Batra talked to me, I was really happy about this topic because I can share some experiences with you all, giving the most interesting things, what I have gained, what I experienced during my 36 years career in the irrigation sector as well as the water resource development sector. The only little excitement I have, because the most of the senior engineers, my gurus are here. There are a lot of number of gurus are here. When I started my career around 1986 in the Department of Irrigation and ended up with 2020, assumed the duties as transferred to the transport sector. However, I have structured not too much technical the talk actually. My agenda, the introduction to the session and building confidence with you, how the water resource landscape in our country, then engaging the audience, the connecting you and me for the policies versus politics, national development agenda, then facts and backgrounds, the prominent landmarks, beliefs versus reality, some stories I will tell you, the winners and losers, what you lost and what you gained, the professional contributions, the popular characters, leading characters, and the silent characters. Then about the book, the last week. And I conclude with the moral and encouragement, what we need to build the future for our next generation. I won't take much time on touching upon this subject, the ancient hydraulic civilization, but just to enter into the subject. So always we are talking about the few eras in the water resource development sector in Sri Lanka, the ancient era where the hydraulic civilization established and state formation. Then the dark era with the invasion of Kalinga Maga as well as the insurgencies. There were a lot of severe damages to the irrigation development works, the water resource infrastructure in the country, we called as dark era. Then the colonial era, where the Dutch and British transformations, that was in the book actually, what kind of efforts have been taken by the Dutch people as well as the British rulers in this country for the water resource development. Then post-independent era, development of the politics, mega projects, and inter-basin transfers. Then the next era, the globalized context. So these are the things what we are talking every day, day to day in our works, what has happened. The subject of history, it became a crucial subject in last 2-3 months back. Learning about the history. Without learning the history, you can't do anything for the future. Therefore, we must learn the history. Otherwise, you can't plan your future. So, how the water resource landscape made us a lot of water resource development infrastructure in our country with the blessings of the topography of the country. The central highland, starting the rivers from the mountainous region, the perennial rivers, non-perennial rivers. There are 103 river basins having fertile soil in most of the terrains. Then ecology and biodiversity, the human culture, the knowledge, skills, and talents, what we have attained, gains from the past to the present. So these are some highlights how our water resource landscape became into this much of rich status. Then the policies versus politics, the national development agenda. What are the policies, policy instruments? What kind of institutional setups, what we have been established, and then development priorities, what was the development priorities? The investment capabilities, the sustainable planning and developments, management, operation and maintenance arrangements, the regulations and law enforcement, power, the constitutional support, the all mix into the water resource development in this country. So interestingly, when we talk about this, because this is the topic what I have given, the policies versus politics. Referring to the book, the Madam Batra's book actually, this the water resource infrastructure, the modern water resources infrastructure built by Dutch, starting from Reservoirs Reservoir and followed by the British rulers. They were given a lot of technical knowledge and investment capacities as well as management capabilities to our country. So the governance architecture is one most important thing, because with this data, we know there were a lot of criticism against the engineers who operated the dams, who made some forecast of the rainfall and other associated flood events. So, because of this governance structure, it has not been established properly and it has not convinced to the general public properly. So you have to face all this kind of blames and criticisms. That's why I spoke at the very beginning. Dr. Hilmi said everything very particularly, what we should do next. So the ancient engineers, they designed entire landscape, not just reservoirs. Forested rich areas acted as catchment protection zones. Upstream small tanks ensured storage security, while downstream wetlands distributed water and nutrients into the paddy systems. That was both engineering and ecological designs. Centuries before modern watershed science used those terms. But all those things not have been written by any person. Then there are three enduring ideas flow from the heritage. First, water and political legitimacy. They are closely linked. Water and political legitimacy, they are very closely linked. Rulers were judged by their ability to secure water and food. The food security was the most prime important factor where the kings and the rulers has to be paid their due attention to secure the nation. Then second, water was treated as a public good managed collectively. In the recent 2-3 decades, we talk about the IWRM principles, Lisbon Charter, Dublin Principles, Kyoto Protocols. But in this country, this island, we have been practiced more than 2005 years, the IWRM principles, Integrated Water Resource Management Principles. I am very much proud to say here in this forum, there are not only the engineers attended to this forum. The scientists are there, administrators are there, the environmentalists are there, sociologists are there. Why? This integration is very much important for the better management of water infrastructure, beginning from planning to the operation. Then today, the third idea continue to the echo in present debates, project approvals and public expectations. Today, I would like to reflect on how our water heritage has shaped modern water politics in Sri Lanka. through three distinctive historical eras. Right? The ancient hydraulic civilization, already I have mentioned to you. Then the period of Dutch and British rule period. Then post-independence era from 1948. In the present day context, we are more focused on what was happened after the 1948 post-independence period. When I was in the irrigation department as the director of irrigation, I met some journalists when I was in Anuradhapura. They have doing some shootings for the ancient irrigation history. They were stayed at Nachaduwa Circuit Bungalow, belongs to the irrigation department. In the evening, I met them. The one of the script writer, he discussed that we are having a chat. He told me, though the irrigation department is being managed, the water resource, the tanks and the anicuts in Sri Lanka, how many tanks have been constructed by the irrigation department? I hope all the dams in Sri Lanka have been built by the kings. I told yes. Because which are constructed by the modern engineers, it has not still written by any. Therefore, people don't aware without having such literature like you. He said, the book written by Mr. R.L. Brohier, The Ancient Irrigation Works of Ceylon, it reflects the most of the stories how the ancient kingdom managed to secure the water and food for the nation. I asked from him, didn't you know about the accelerated Mahavali program? Then he started. The 30 years project has been squeezed to the 6 years with the political backing of Jayachandana Echi period, headed by the minister, Honorable Gavin Sarnai, and started the work to build up 5 dams, starting from Potmali, Victoria, Randanikal, Rantabe, and Madhuroya. That is the way how the people conceived, how the people think about the water source development works. All had been done by our ancestors or the ancient people. So when I talk with him, I highlighted such kind of issues, such kind of works done by the present day engineers, the recent the engineers after the 1900. How the Iranwadu tank has been constructed by the irrigation department, the Rajangana Reservoir, then Ngiriviti Reservoir, in down south, Lunugambhera Reservoir. The list of reservoirs I mentioned to him. Then he asked, why did the irrigation department publish those reservoirs, about those reservoirs as a book? I told him one day it will make into a reality by one inch. So I must thank Madam Vadra, because this was happened in 2008 when I was a chief president, when I was a Chief Resident Engineer at Anuradhapur. So, with this activities done by the engineers, we have to show how the other disciplines contributed to make the projects in reality. The ancient kingdoms, the Dutch and British rulers, the Central Board of Irrigation, the Irrigation Department, the Galway Development Board, River Valley Development Board, Mahavali Development Board, later Mahavali Economic Agency, MECA and MASL, then the role of CECB, State Engineering Corporation, SDNCC, then the Treasury, National Planning Department, External Resource Department, the judiciary system, the ministries, Cabinet of Ministers, Parliament, all are get together to, we have all been worked for the water resource development in the country. The projects headed by the engineers, planned by the engineers, water resource development engineers, backed by all the other groups, giving some facilities to make it reality. How it was happened in history, in the past, the king's order, sometimes with the community demands. Even in the British or Dutch ruling period, again the governor's order, and otherwise backed by the community. And thirdly, the policy-based plans. After 1927, the British government developed some land policies, agriculture policies related to development of waterworks. So such policies encouraged the engineers, driven the momentum to design the reservoirs as well as diversion works. Some projects we created due to the society-driven process. Some are politically driven. Some are professional driven. The just professionals do by looking the topo maps, identifying the layout of contours, and they have mapped some of projects. The recently Runpura Water Resource Development Plan developed by Engineer G.V. Ratnasar and his team. The later NCP Canal project developed by Engineer Dayaratna and some other, the Mahavali and Irrigation senior engineers. There are some plans. Those are professionally driven projects. Professionals who made use of their talents, knowledge to develop the water resource projects. Then donor driven. Some projects we have seen, mostly the irrigation system rehabilitations, as well as some new projects coming through the donor driven process with policy-based loans, conditional. Starting from this year, 2026, World Bank and Asian Development Bank has decided to invest their money only to the Sri Lanka, only policy-based. So, whether we have accepted or not, if we need money, we have to be ready to prepare a policy for the water resource management, water resources, and execute according to the government national water resource policy. We have policies, we have enough policies, but the thing is, we have not seen any document naming as a national water resource policy. Either it should be the NPT government or the SLPO, any government. Based on the current requirement, we have to produce a water resource policy. Then the nature-driven, some nature-driven. After the turnout, we are looking how the disaster risk reduction can be done, incorporating some new projects, the storage, diversions. Now, more than 4-5 decades, irrigation department is struggling to reduce the floods in Kalungaga Basin, Ging and Nilala Basin, but because of the other pressures, political pressures, the social pressures, they are not in a position to implement those projects. The Mallower Dam, Gindilala Diversion Project, we are not in the position to implement those things because of the political constraints and social objections. So we have to be adhere. As engineers, we have to be adhere. We have to let them to enjoy with floods. What we lose our properties, not only the properties, our people. So one day the people will realize, politicians will realize what we need to do. So then what was happened in the past? Sometimes this may happen in the future also. The beliefs versus reality. The leadership roles and investments has become an issue because of the egos and perceptions. Though the engineers made a plan to build the new reservoir projects for diversion works, some egos work out to push them away. The perceptions are not positively work to approve the projects. Then sometimes politically induced pressures. In our country, the most popular practice is if any project suggested by the ruling party, the opposition party used to object, oppose the project. So that is one scenario. Then misleading opinions. The general public, they very easily, if you are a good catalyst, you can very easily mislead the people. Then group dynamics will work very extensively not to do the project. Fear of loss of legitimacy and political power. We have good experiences. Engineer Rohan Perra is here. We both of us together, when I was in the ministry, we attended to the Northern Provincial Council meetings to discuss about connecting the North Central Province Canal water up to the Iranamadu tank. Meeting was chaired by the Honorable Governor. Former Chief Minister C.G. Vignesh also attended, one Mr. Dayalan, former council member, and most of the water resource experts in the northern area also attended. They have some fear, according to 13th amendment to the Constitution. When Mahavali water connect to the Iranamadu tank, the Iranamadu tank will be vested by the central government. Finally, they issued a letter. We don't need Mahavali water to Iranamadu tank. It is in the municipal pipe. Now I heard the recently now they want. Now they want. So I saw now new project is being planned. The concept of paper was developed to have the water from central region to northern region through the north central province, enabling the northern provincial people to use the Mahaweli water. Then institutional preconceived notion. Sometimes institutional bias are there. Right? I'm not going to explain. Most of you are familiar with this. What are the institutional restraints, the biasness, work on these decisions. Then thoughts of international pressures. The most famous terminology here being in practice is IMF conditions these days. Sometimes World Bank conditions. And sometimes some directions given by India or China or by America. We don't know the reality. Sometimes there may be real facts, but we have to be very vigilant when we work in future and present days for the water resource development and management. What are the international pressures we have for our water sector? Then group dynamics, it will work very energetic way because we all should know that each and every person has the different group, different dynamics to work in any sector. When you are working for the water resource sector, there are a lot of positive and negative minds work on the subject to plan, investigate, design, and finally implement and manage our projects. So, however, with all these barriers, struggles, we have some positives and negatives. What we gain, what we lost, what we gained, what we lose, what we lost. Food security, very important for the nation. In 1927, the paddy land extent in the country 798,000 acres. In 1938, it was reduced to 580,000 acres. Again, 1945, it increased up to 913,000 acres. In 1952, again, it increased up to 1,085,000 acres. The central bank report reflects, and the Census and Statistics Department reflects, the national average yield was 25 bushels per acre. The scientist, he has written a technical paper saying that though the irrigation department has been established in 1900 up to 1947, the expected outcomes were not received, and expected agriculture development has not been in place, and the increase in the yield in paddy was not happened as the staple food of the nations of Sri Lanka. With some policy interventions of the British rulers. 1920, government land distribution to the farmers. Earlier, it was not. In 1920, one Mr. Breck, a government agent to the Batikolo, he proposed to the Queen and the British government in view of keeping the food security in this region, we have to give them government lands to the farmers. It was started in 1927. Honorable Hugh Clifford was the governor. He appointed the Land Commission. The first commission appointed in the country, Land Commission, to develop agricultural lands in the country. And 1927, followed by the Land Commission, they decided to start the settlement projects in the country. The settlement scheme policy was introduced. Again, 1931, Land Dispute Settlement Ordinance passed by the Senate. Then 1935, Land Development Ordinance introduced. 1947, Irrigation Development Policy introduced. In 1949, with these milestone steps, the Galloya Development Board Act passed by the Parliament, enabling to develop the Galloya Basin to increase the paddy land extent up to 100,000 acres. Explicitly, the British government, they wanted to enforce the laws in the country to increase the paddy production and the yield, as well as develop the water resources. They have been done the very lot of activities. The abolition of Rajakarya, it was enforced in 1832. The Colebrook-Cameron Commission decided to abolish the Rajakarya and given directions to prepare the irrigation ordinance under the head of Governor Henry Ward. The first ordinance, called as number 9 of 1856, an ordinance to facilitate the revival and enforcement of ancient customs regarding irrigation and cultivation of paddy lands. Again, formalization of the institutions in with the letter written by the colonial secretary, Sir Emerson Tennant. In 1846, saying, without being developed the abundant tanks and irrigation network in the country, the British government has a burden to provide rations to the nation of Ceylon. Therefore, he suggested to rehabilitate all the abundant tanks and the irrigation networks immediately. But it was not activated at that time. In 1870s, another governor proposed the same thing, and then 1880, Central Irrigation Board has been established. However, with the letter sent to the British rulers, they instructed the activities to the Public Works Department to carry out some irrigation development activities, but it has not been realized because their major, the role is to develop the roads, the connectivity, improve the connectivity from Colombo to Kandy, then up to Badulla, then to the Northern, up to Jaffna, then to the Goal. That was the agenda what they have done under the Public Works Department. Therefore, it has not been realized. Therefore, in 1906, the Irrigation Ordinance number 16 of 1906 was introduced again by the British rulers, and expedite the work through the Irrigation Department. In 1903, Irrigation Manual is there. If you have a chance, please see that. The Irrigation Manual, it says not only to provide water to the paddy lands. They are given the responsibility to develop the water resources for the entire requirements of the public in this country. Even now in the administration, the report you can see the mission, vision and functions, it reflects the same. In 1903 manual, it reflects the same. Still, the irrigation department has the same responsibility, whether others are not accepted or not. Then, with the expansion of water demands, the users, the requirements, some other agencies were established in this country after the irrigation department, the agrarian development department, the Mahavali Authority, the National Water Supply and Drainage Board, Water Resource Board. Now, more than 42 agencies are managed the water in this country, including the ministries. So, now it is very difficult to, water can manage, but the activities pertaining to different issues, it is very difficult to manage. Sometimes the member of parliament came into our offices and he used to take the key to open the sluice gates, where we are practicing with the irrigation schedules. There was a time, such time of attempts were there, but because of the engineers' strong decisions, it was not happened. That is how the political pressures coming into the scene. Then these are some examples what I have spelled out actually. Another thing, the food security, the health and sanitation, the ecological balances, aesthetic view, elimination of rural poverty, the disaster risk reductions, employment opportunities, increase in social capitals, industrializations, building up technical capacity, socio-economic empowerment, and secured cultural bindings. Those are the things what we have been gained through the water resource development. It linked to the ancient irrigation development or the water resource development activities. We know the King Vasabha, King Mahasen, King Parakamba the Great, then King Dhatusena, what they have done. Right? All these outcomes coming from generation to generation, binding with our culture. So we have to be secured that forever. What we lose with the some of the projects, we have lost the natural landscape in some area. The land and forest, fauna and flora, people and animals, the human-elephant conflict. How many people will be evacuated for the construction of Kotmale Dam? 2,000? 1,000? How many people removed from the Teldenia town and the area to build up the Victoria Dam? About 3,000. What has happened to their inherited inborn settlements? Social bindings. So those are what we lost. Right? So the pros and cons are there, but what I believe, the positive side is more than the negative side. You have to sacrifice for any developments. Right? Nowadays, some environmentalists and some ecologists say because of this water resource development, human-elephant conflict has been increased. We have to be assessed. What kind of professional contributions we can assess, estimate, and appreciate? The prominent characters are there. The popular characters. Then there are some leading characters. There are some silent characters. I know that during last 30 to 35 years, when I was in the irrigation sector, what was done in the irrigation department, the engineers, the planning division, the hydrology laboratory, engineering materials, hydraulics, making models,
I think more than 1,000 engineers, they have contributed to the recent works, what we have been written in this book by Madam Bharma. All are silent characters. Because we all can't be emerged as a popular character or a leading character. Leading character should have some leadership characteristics. Some engineers, they don't have. We have to accept. Whereas some engineers side much on talking, debating, arguing to get the approval from the project. Sometimes maybe from the Central Environment Authority, maybe from Forest Department, some other project approving authorities, convinced to the Cabinet of Ministers, that you have to have some guts. They are the brave characters. I like to call as leading characters. But some are very much popular. You know, the engineer DJ Vimla Surendra, we are here now in memory of his service. Who is the pioneer for the hydropower generation in this country, using water, again, water resources. Then as Armugam engineer, the veteran engineer, the engineer G.P. Ponraja, engineer D.L.O. Mendis, the Ray Vijayawardhan, then Dr. Panabokke. They are the characters, prominent characters, and we used to talk them as the popular characters. I have in this, I have given another character. The one day he would be in the circle. If the public is accepted, the engineer society is accepted, he is as a character who developed, who initiated some efforts to get the approval of Moragakanta Reservoir. The construction of Moragakanta Reservoir was banned by the Supreme Court because of two scientific species of fish varieties. When he left the country actually, he worked in the irrigation department, he left the country. Then Honorable Maitripala Sirisena wanted to, this is not politics, right? Just to share the knowledge and experience, what I have gained. When he was in the New Zealand, he was invited to assume the duties as the Director General of Mahavali Authority of Sri Lanka. He returned to the country, he assumed the duties. He has given the challenge to construct the Moragakanta Reservoir. The Supreme Court order was there. He talked to the Central Environment Authority, the most of the politicians. He is a very talented person. However, again, motion was filed in the Supreme Court and get the approval to construct the Moragakanta Reservoir. The funny thing was, after a few years, commissioning the dam, His Excellency Maitripala Sirisena was in an interview with the television. He said, I wanted to divert the Mahavali water through Amanganga to Polonnaruwa district. We have 4 reservoirs, Palakama Samudra, Kaudula, Giritale, and in area where the water deficits exist in some dry months. Then Dr. Kulasinghe showed me a place where you can divert the water. Therefore, I decided to name this reservoir as the Kulasinghe Reservoir. Yeah, great. But as I told you, the beliefs and the realities is 2 different things. The people believe them. Now people, my experience was actually, The 1946 Irrigation Department Hydrology branch started the hydrological studies to develop the water resource in the few major river basins. Mahaveli is one of the basin. Then, in 1962, the Mahaveli Master Plan was developed with the support of the United States Bureau of Reclamation and the UN experts. The Irrigation Department headed the feasibility study, and there are 16 volumes, I think, if I remember correct, there are 16 volumes. The environment, sociology, ecology, everything is there actually, not only the technical or the engineering background, right? So, in that feasibility study report, also the Morahavan Reservoir was there, right? But the problem is, we have not provided the information to the general public what we have been done. Therefore, general public, they thought that this is the work of these people, right? This is just to tell you one. And we have been pressurized by some other, sometimes the policy matters, sometimes other issues. The engineer Ratnagar, the former secretary, the boss is there actually. When he was the zonal director for the Uva region, he had to design the small reservoir having a 30 acre feet to provide irrigation facilities to the 70 acres. He told me this story actually. But according to our principles, we have to show the project viability. Technical part we can do actually, but project viability we have to do the economic feasibility. IRR. You can't show the IRR for the 70 acres with 30 acre feet of reservoir. That is according to him, the tail end of the Ambevel scheme. The Ambevel scheme does not permit to provide water to these lands. Then what was happened? Then Minister was the Honorable Nivasin Pasri. She inquired about why you are not approving this project because of the IRR issue. He shouted, asked the people to do the reservoir. It has been built. Then, now, people live happy. Right? In some instances, we have to do some activities accordingly. Right? So, the Duro Reservoir, we have big stories. Then the Yang Reservoir, we have stories. The people came to hit with some timber poles and khakis. They chased behind me. Luckily, I get into the vehicle and move away from the site during the feasibility investigation studies for the Yang Reservoir. Right? That is how the people behave. So anyhow, the time has gone actually more than the given time. So what I want to tell you about this monograph, what it reflects, what the stories, what have been. Here I have given you a table. I think most of you have been purchased this book. You have to be reading carefully and try to understand the overview, the historical background, design features, project benefits. There are some maps, photos, and drawings. Investment part, I don't know. You have to be praised. Who are the leading characters? What are the obstacles and challenges faced for construction of these? Madam, what I noticed is the last one. Right? We have to write these things because we have faced enough problems until the project is into the completion stage, commissioning. There were some deaths due to the safety issues at sites. They have sacrificed their lives for our activity. But what I appreciate, ma'am, your dedication of your book to the visionaries, planners and designers who transform ideas into the enduring realities, spending days in remote terrains, engaging with local communities and shaping projects with dedication and insight. Moreover, she emphasized the contribution of countless engineers. As I told you, we don't know how many number of engineers work, technical officers, workforces, even the laborers, the operators, mechanics, carpenters, masons, right? So he mentioned the surveyors, technical officers, workmen and communities. Because on daily wage basis, the most of the villagers, communities participate for the development activities, who brave jungles, disease and danger to build reservoirs and canals, bringing water life to generations. Bringing water, life to the generations. Very, 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 very interesting, and it is, you will realize how she has written her dedication of this book. Finally, the nation remains forever indebted to their courage, commitment, and foresights. Thank you, ma'am. That kind of thinkings. The conclusion. How I felt actually the morale and encouragement. I am not going to. I have already said everything under these topics, but lastly, the information and communication. What Dr. Hilmi says. Timely delivering the information to the public is nowadays very, very important. We can develop the water resource, we can build the reservoirs, we can build the transversal diversions, but the risk is becoming a matter due to the climate change. Therefore, we have some responsibility to introduce new platforms. That is the thing what Dr. Hilmi's highlighted. With that, I conclude. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Engineer Lalitallis, for that enlightening presentation. You have beautifully instructed how our water heritage continue to influence modern decision making and policy. When I asked from him what is the last word of his presentation, whether it is policies or politics, he said yes, politics. But I will talk politics, but I will mention the policies also. Thank you. So since the time is, we are little bit lagging, so we are going to have a very important 2 events now. Special book presentations. Ladies and gentlemen, we now come to a very special moment. The author, Engineer Badra Kamaldas, will present copies of the book to 3 selected individuals. And she will share with us the reasons for choosing these special recipients and do the honors to these 3 recipients. Madam, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Frankie, and all the guest speakers and all the audience here. I prepared a small speech giving the background of preparation and also some reasons, but I'm not going to do that because I know all of you are in a hurry and all that. So I will conclude with my presentation by presenting 3 copies as I decided on my own. I didn't consult anyone because I chose those 3 eminent people. The first copy, of course, will be presented to President IESL. as a symbolic handing over of the intellectual property to the Institution of Engineers. So from this point onwards, it becomes a property of IESL. So, and I say this with great relief and pride. Then the second book, actually the book is dedicated, as shown by Engineer Lalit, to all those who contributed to the creation of modern reservoirs in Sri Lanka. So to represent that group, the second copy will be presented to Engineer GJP Gunawardena, who is now 99 years old and graciously accepted my invitation today to join us physically. He was ISL president in 1987-88 session, and he joined the irrigation department in 1951, that is before many of us were born, and was in charge of the designs on many new reservoirs. He joined the Mahavira Development Board in 1982 to serve as the director of Minipe Trans-Basin Canal, and later became the managing director of the Mahavira Engineering and Construction Agency when modern Mahavira reservoir construction were in peak time, and retired in 1994. It is truly an honor to present this book to him today. The third copy goes to non-engineer. May I see whether she's there? To a non-engineer who is active member in water resources sector, locally and internationally. She supported me unconditionally, I must say again, supported me unconditionally during the publication of my first book with IESL in 2006, that is mentioned by earlier also, Irrigation Development in Sri Lanka. Her support came at a critical moment to IESL as well as me, when the editors assigned by IESL are unable to attend to it and returned it empty at the last moment. So on my request, Mrs. Kusuma Korola stepped in without hesitation to be the content as well as the language editor. So Kusum, although it is nearing 20 years have passed, gratitude does not expire. I know this is a totally surprise, a complete surprise to you, but I felt it was important that ISL and me to acknowledge the contributions of professionals like you and also the other disciplines to here today to support our ISL work without expecting any recognition. So with that, I want to hand over the book and also conclude my speech. And thank you very much. And coming and sharing this occasion with us.
I would like to invite Madam Kamaladasa and Engineer Kosala Kamaladaniya to come over here to do the formal presentations of the publication for some special invitee, special people. Please come, sir. Firstly, for the two speakers, Engineer Dr. Hilmi Salim. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Salim. Engineer Larry Alvis. Thank you, Engineer Alice. Next, Engineer Granier Jala, immediate past president of IISL. Okay. Engineer Kamala Gunawardana, immediate past chairman of LPNCC committee. Thank you, Madam Kamala. Engineer N.G. Hemachandra, current president, chairman of the LPNCC committee. Thank you, Engineer Chandra. So we are moving on to the sponsors. Principal sponsor, EML Consultants. Okay. Then the co-sponsors, Infotech Ideas. Thank you, Engineer Jayaratan. Thank you, sir. So the next co-sponsor, Melva. The last one is for Innova Engineering supporting sponsors. Innova Engineering, please. Okay, another event is we have prepared two mementos for the two speakers. So I would invite Chairman ISL and Madam Kamala Dasa to hand over the mementos. Engineer Dr. Hilmi Salim, please. Engineer Larry Alvis. Well, thank you, sir. Thank you, madam.
We have to to compare engineer. Thank you, this is forever.
Thank you. Thank you, madam, for that. One special event is remaining, very special event. Before that, I need to say a book is a river flowing quietly, nourishing minds unseen. Yes may pass, voice may fade, but a book keeps wisdom alive. Now, we have an entertainment event. Do you know who he is? Now, Engineer GJP Gunawardhan, our veteran engineer, going to sing a song for you. I need to tell you this. Engineer Gunawardhan is a close relative of Madam Barbara Kamaladas. How is that? Engineer GJP Gunawardhan is a mama of Engineer Nishanta Kamaladas, Engineer Kamaladas's mother's younger brother. So, Madam wanted to tell me that even the Engineer GJP Gunawardhan's family members had a trust allowing him to come to this stage because he's now 99 years old. Before you start singing, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, sir. You can start.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I thank Mrs. Amaladas for having invited me to this occasion to be present at the book launch. She's a unique lady. She has a uniqueness in that she has, as a lady from leading engineer, she has become the first director general of irrigation department. I was for 30 years, I just took 20 years. I have served as president of the irrigation too. And I have been in this place very much, but now I'm hardly staying in this area. So some lot of people think and don't know me. But I think the older people, older Christians also have disappeared. Because I am now reaching 99 on June 23 of this year. And the uniqueness doesn't end with the refinement. Yes, but uniqueness into this sort of event too. This is the first time I have experienced somebody singing at an event like this. And me myself, I have seen it on other people singing this song by Rupman, the Gudendila, one of the singers in the language. You can join, I will be very happy if you are the one who singing. Okay, there I go.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. We will hope that again you will be here after 26th of June 2027 also. That is when you reach 100 years. Okay, we are coming to the end of this event. I would like to invite Engineer Kamala Gunawardena, past chairman of the LPP and CC committee, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good evening. As we conclude this memorable and intellectually enriching event and the evening, it's my honor and privilege to offer the vote of thanks on behalf of the Library Publications, Publicity and Conferences Committee of the Institution of Engineers Sri Lanka. First and foremost, I wish to express our deepest appreciation to Engineer Patra Kamaladasa for your remarkable commitment, determination and professional dedication in undertaking and completing this valuable book. We are extremely proud to celebrate your achievement today. Our appreciation is to Engineer Janaki Mikasenna and Engineer Professor Misaklettiarachi for their valuable roles as reviewers. I'm not sure Janaki is here. I then wish to gratefully acknowledge the team that enlightened this specific topic and supported the massive task of producing this book. There is a team behind. Our guest speakers, before that, I will acknowledge our guest speakers, Dr. Hilmi Sally and Engineer K.D. Alvis, for delivering timely speeches to the members on the very relevant subject of reservoirs. President of the ISL, Engineer Kosala Kapuradeniya, for your leadership and encouragement, ensured that this initiative was brought to completion and culminated in today's remarkable book launch. Immediate past president, though he is not here, Engineer Kani Arjayala, we are grateful to his leadership that contributed to the fulfillment of this important publication, originally conceived and initiated, which we witnessed today. I also extend our sincere thanks to the Council of the ESL, previous session 2024-2025, as well as the present Council, who supported this project through its formative stages, ensuring continuity and commitment. I thank our distinguished invitees for accepting the invitation and for gracing the occasion. We are thankful to the CEO, Engineer Neil Abhisekara, for the administrative and institutional support that made this event possible. The Chair LPPC, Engineer Hemchandra, and the committee for continuing the process to achieve today's task. To the sponsors, EMLS Consultants PLC, Infotex Ideas Private Limited, Melwire Rolling Private Limited, and Innova Engineering Private Limited. With your sponsorship, we managed to issue books at a concessional rate. We warmly thank all those who participated in this event and purchased the book, thereby demonstrating your support for professional learning and knowledge dissemination. Mr. Chamila Priyanta, Manager Publicity of the ISL, his coordination between the reviewers and the printer, ensuring the smooth progress of editorial and production activities is appreciated. Our heartfelt gratitude also goes to ISL staff for smooth organization of this event. To the volunteers for your valuable assistance. Engineer Frankie Pereira Compier for skillfully guiding this event throughout the session. To the photographer, Mr. Madhura Prasanna. Hope you covered the valuable items carefully. In addition, a great appreciation to Shilpi Kunawardana for entertaining us. Thank you very much. Finally, every one of you, our senior engineers, and all the participants and the members of the ISL who honored this occasion with your presence, both physically and online. Yeah, online, everyone. Your engagement and encouragement to give life and meaning for this sort of professional activities, initiatives. Now our invitation for everyone to join us for the tea at the members' lounge while experiencing networking also. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you, Ms. Kamaladasan. May this publication, the Sri Lanka's Modern Reservoirs, inspire learning, reflection, and responsible engineering. Thank you all and have a pleasant evening.